Hi everyone, it's Beverly Cole. Welcome back to my channel. Most people that reuse calendars in their junk journals or craft projects make use of the beautiful pictures, and I had saved this calendar for that exact reason. The pictures are amazing. They're beautiful. There's color and texture. But I started playing around with it, and I came up with a few ideas of how to use this part of the calendar in your journal, or for gifts, or for little projects that you can remember the past from in a special way. We're going to make that little book. And then also, this is something that you could use for, several things, and I'm going to talk about that later on. And then I also made this inside of my journal with a zipper that unzips down the middle, where you can hide something or not. So let's get started. First things first, I'm going to make this little book. And if you have a calendar that's full of, things that you've jotted down. When my kids were little, I kept track of everything on the calendar, everything. So I had calendars full of information. If only I still had them. But they got lost along the way. So I'm going to show you how to make this little book. And then if you have a calendar full of information, you can use it as a remembrance book. I had to let the cat into the room, sorry. What we're showing here, or what I'm showing here, is how to fold the numbered spaces into a little book. So let's pretend that there's information on every one of these little pages, and you're making this into something that you can keep forever, and it's tiny. You could make one for every year, or you could make one for every month for a special year, and keep it. Say you're planning a wedding, or you homeschool, or you're going on an adventure in your RV. Here I'm showing you that the little edge of the calendar is left on so that you can glue the pages together. Here I'm showing how to adhere one strip of numbers to the next one. Just a little bit of glue, and this is that same glue I love that dries really quickly so that I can continue to work on my craft. So I fold that back from the numbers on the second strip and glue it to the back of the last number on the first strip. And then I continue folding. Now the lines are there in between the numbers, but what I found was doing it this way, I couldn't see the line. And it got a little frustrating because I had to keep working at it as I open it up and check the line and make sure it all, lined up perfectly. And of course, you can try your best to just make it, perfectly rectangular. But then I thought, well, what if I just fold all of them one direction, and then I could go back and fold them the way I want. So this is the first way I did it, and it was just a little frustrating that I couldn't get the numbers all lined up. So then I went back the next time, and here we're doing that same thing where you fold back that little extra edge. Now, it depends on what kind of calendar you have. They've all got different sized boxes. In fact, this calendar had different sized boxes on different pages. So it just depends, how big your little book will be. Here I'm showing you again how to attach one to the other. And, I just want to make sure that you know how it goes. And the glue dries pretty quickly. Now I'm going to show you how I bent them all one direction. See, on the lines, I can see the lines in between the numbers. And then, after I do all of them this direction, I can go back and fold them into the accordion that I want, since they're already bent one direction. See? Much, much easier. I mean, this is how I chose to do it. You can do it any way you want. You could put it through, one of those, I have one, but I don't have it with me in the RV, where you can score a scoreboard. You could use that if you'd like to. Sometimes the paper is just a little bit, a little bit thin. So you got to be careful if you're going to use one of those scoreboards. You don't want to score it so that it goes through the paper. So I just continue here to do the same thing. And this is for an entire month. So say you're planning your advent calendar. That's what I used to do. For the month of December, I would plan the advent calendar and make a little advent chain. And then on the calendar, I kept track of all the things that I had put on that chain as little activities, so that if I had to change something out, I could go ahead and kind of secretly tear apart the chain and redo it, so that, say, we were going to go have hot chocolate somewhere and it didn't work out that next day, I could switch it. Yeah, that's the kind of crazy stuff I used to do. Ask my kids. So, yeah. So the little book here it is, all right? The whole little accordioned book. And now, depending on how big your book is, you're going to want something that's about a half an inch larger than the book, so that you can fold over the edges. Now here I'm just adding a piece, just like we needed before, to fold over and attach, but there wasn't anything there, so I had to add something on the front and the back cover, if that makes sense, so that it could attach to the inside of the little book. Now I'm using two of my artificial intelligence collage ladies, I should say, and it just worked out that they were the right size, and the space that I had left when I printed them out was great, perfect for the binding. It just worked out for me. So, just play around with the idea. You can cover it with whatever you want. You could even use fabric. It doesn't matter. But it just worked out for me that this just made this perfect little book cover. So here I am. Now, before you add the book cover, this is important, so that your book's not an accordion anymore, although you could leave it that way. I'm gluing the backs of each page to the next one, so that they are actually little pages that you can turn. Now watch. You see, I'm making them into pages by gluing them back to back. Once you start doing it, you'll know what I mean. It's a really fun project. It doesn't take a lot of thought, actually. Well, once you get it all planned out, once you figure out the size of everything, and I don't like to measure, but, once you have the size of the calendar page and you can, play with it and fiddle out, figure out how, the size works for you to make the cover and things, then it's easy. This part is just super easy. And it makes such a cute little book. Wait till you see what these turn into. I'm going to make them into a couple different things. And you can keep these, instead of the whole calendar thrown in a drawer somewhere with all of your information for over the year, you can make every month into a little book, and it'll show all of the things that you had on your calendar for that year. And that might not seem like something special now, but if I had saved these back when my kids were, 15? My kids are in their 40s now, so it would be really cool to be able to give them these, or just for me to look back and see. But if it's blank like this, well, then you have a little book that you can put in your journal and journal in. So here's that cover, and now I'm going to have that little bit of extra. So I'm going to fold it back, because the book's about 3/4 of an inch and the cover is about an inch. So I have like 1/4 of an inch left to fold over. Now, when I glue this into the cover, if you notice, I will rub this on the countertop to make it flat and help it to adhere. It's just so cute. And it can be so special. Now I'm folding those in. And it gives this perfect little book cover. Just showing you here how, it takes a little bit of finagling, I should say. Not really, but it's just cute. It's just cute. And like I said, I rub it on the counter. Here I am. I'm just rolling it back and forth on its binding so that it helps to finish it off and press it into place. Can you believe how cute that is? Now, if you've gone to my coffee shop, then you have these little ladies here they're still free. And you can just download that and you'll have them to use. They're really cool. I do believe, though, I copied them and made another, the ones that are on that sheet, I'm not sure how big they are, so you might have to resize them for your book. But okay, so here I'm using a nail file to distress the edges and make the pages all perfectly, well, not perfectly, but almost perfectly even. I'm not using any kind of ink, distress ink, or anything on the edges because, I don't know, I just feel like that would maybe rub off, or I just didn't want to fiddle with that. Now here, I'm using a baby wipe because the glue that I used kind of got out of control in a couple places. And when I did this, it actually took some of the color off the pages, so it helped make it look a little bit more distressed and old. But whatever, if you use, I guess you could use double-sided tape, but I don't like the fact that I can't slide things around with that, so I used glue. And if you use fabric tack, well, that kind of will rub off a little bit easier. Just try to be careful, but don't get, overly concerned. It's not worth it. It isn't worth it. So there we go. Cleaning it up a little bit more. And you can see there I have a roll of washi tape, which I'm going to use on the inside of my covers. It's wide enough that I can just put it inside there and it makes the inside cover finished. I probably should have put some glue under this because we know washi tape isn't permanent. It's made to peel off. So if you want it to be permanent, you should probably use a little glue. Now here are the teeny tiny calendars on the side of the page, and I decided on this one I was going to put a month. So I clipped the little month off of one of those little calendars and added it to the edge, to the binding of my book. So it makes it the month of whatever, and you can use that as a keepsake. Now, here's what you can do with it. You can clip it to the inside of your journal in a couple places, or like I'm doing here, you can make it into kind of like a little bit of an ornament. This little piece of like suede ribbon was saved from a baby outfit that my daughter got with one of her babies. She has 4 little girls. And I saved it, and I just thought it was so cute for this book. I had to double it up. It was giving me a little bit of I wanted to make it a loop so that I could hang it. So here it's just glue again, and I'm adding that doubled over piece of ribbon. And of course you could use fabric tack with this too, since it's fabric. But here I'm just trimming the bottom of it, and the top, once it's dry, will have this adorable little loop. Now here is that other project, and this is made for 30 wishes, 30 dreams, 30 clues that you could use for a variety of reasons, and we're going to use the entire calendar page. Now this one, you want it to be blank, unless you have another use for it. If you do, just leave me a comment. I'd love to know what other suggestion you might have for this if it were filled in. Now here I'm just deciding how big I need to trim this piece of paper that I have designed. These are my own drawings and designed paper. And if I think of it, I'll add it to my coffee shop. And notice the size will and the way it's put together will depend on your calendar. This one happens to have things down the side. Yours may have things across the bottom. So, just use your imagination and decide how you're going to do it. So the way I'm showing you here is what I did. I was just showing you that on the back you can see the stitches because I did sew around the edges and across the bottom of each little set of pockets that we're going to create. So you can sew it, you can glue it. You don't need to sew if you don't like to sew. You don't want to drag out your machine, no big deal. Just do whatever makes you happy. I want you to be happy. I'm happy. Are you happy? Let's be happy. So here I'm just showing you how I trimmed this particular calendar page. I trimmed so that I only have the Monday at the top. You see the Monday? It's, what is it, Sunday through Saturday, okay? But the month is gone. The top of the month is gone. And it doesn't matter. This one had 30 numbers. You can do it with a 29, 28, whatever. This one had 30, so I decided to make it into a 30 wishes or clues or dreams where you can write in little things on the little tiny tags we're going to make. Say you want to have a month where, or even for a birthday month, on each one of those little tags, you could write a clue or a number, and then they open up that number clue and it gives them a clue to where the next clue is. Make it into a little game. There's so many things you can do. Now here I'm just showing how I measure because I don't like to, and I'm just using pencil to mark the width of certain things. And you're going to want paper to cover over the Sunday through Saturday. We don't need that, so I just covered it with a strip of. Now this is cardstock. This was run off on my printer, but it is on cardstock. These are papers that are also designed by me. The orange papers were not. Those are straight out of a scrapbook pad. So whatever you have, just make sure it's sturdy enough. Cardstock is better than paper at this point. Now see how that will cover the Sunday through Saturday. And then the next one I'm measuring here is to cover up the spaces. We're going to leave the numbers showing, but the spaces will not be shown. The spaces are where we're going to make the little pockets. And so we're making the pockets out of this cardstock. We're going to attach it right underneath the numbers. If there's any little words, such as first day of spring, Christmas, you can make the pockets high enough where you cover that up. Still measuring, making sure for each row, because they might not be the same size. You just never know. They should be, but you just never know. So I decided on this calendar I was going to make a purple strip and then a yellow strip and then a purple strip and then a yellow strip. The other one was flowers, then plain, and then flowers, then plain, the orange one. But this one's going to be purple and yellow printed papers that have my, which flowers are these? The asters. These are asters and butterflies. Please be sure to check out my Ko-fi shop. And if you are enjoying this video, please give me a thumbs up. I don't get too many thumbs up, and also comments would really be appreciated. It helps my channel and it's encouraging to me. It just gives me energy when I hear from you guys. It just does, and it's super fun. Okay, so here I am, doing some more measuring. I got the purple, I got the yellow. I'm using a pencil. I don't want to measure with a ruler. I have to sometimes, but I prefer not to. It's just fun to mark it and cut it. Mark it and cut it with a pencil. Well, not cut it with a pencil, but mark it with a pencil and then cut it with my paper trimmer. Boom. Now, if you wanted to make bigger pockets than the ones I'm making, you could cover the numbers and then just make the pockets out of 4 squares and then have fewer pockets. I mean, you can do anything you want, but the idea here is to use these pages for the numbers and blocks that are already there for us. We don't have to create the blocks. They're already measured for us. We just fill them in pretty much. So I'm filling them in with a strip, and then I'm going to share with you something that I didn't do quite right on this one that I'm making. I thought I was going to want to do one thing, and I ended up not wanting to do it, and then I had to kind of go back and kind of fudge something, and it still worked, but I just wanted to share with you how sometimes things just don't go the way that we planned, and it's okay. It's okay. You just roll with it. And it turned out great. If I didn't tell you, you would never know. That's the thing we have to remember. If we make a mistake and it's glaringly obvious to us, it's not necessarily going to be something anyone else even notices. So don't worry. If you make a little boo-boo, just keep going. So here you can see if I covered the numbers, it'd be fine. It could be even something different, but we're not covering the numbers. The pockets go under the numbers on this specific thing that I'm making, this little chart. Now, I was planning originally on sewing vertically from top to bottom and sewing around every square. But I decided not to because I didn't like the way it was going to look. The thread I used was a little dark, and I just thought it would be overbearing to have all of that dark thread. So here I'm not at that point yet, but I'm just telling you that's part of the boo-boo I did. So here we have these little strips. This one goes on the bottom. Okay, yeah. And I measure and cut it because I like to end it where the spaces are. This one's going to have 31 spaces, which is just fine. And if it said 31 and you don't want 31, you only want 30, well, then you can cover the 31 up. You could just put a piece of pretty paper over it or anything you want, a flower, it doesn't matter, something to hide the 31. But I wasn't going to hide it. So here I'm just cutting the strips to fit across all of those numbers. Now, these will be glued only at the ends, the beginning and the end of each strip. And then I'm going to sew around the edges of the entire calendar and across each row horizontally. That's all the stitching I'm going to do. So here I'm going to show you how I glue just checking my other one to see that I have all the pieces that I need. And now we'll glue it together. Oh, I'm fitting it on the background piece. See the background piece? Yeah, that's another one of my papers. Because I'm kind of wanting to go along with the cover up the sidebar, even though with this one I didn't cover up the sidebar, I cut it off. But because of the big space on the left, I kind of wanted to leave that there. I kind of liked it. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just lining it up, making sure I have everything the way I want it. And now I will glue it together. First I'm going to glue the calendar to the background. Now the calendar, well, no, I'm going to glue the strips, sorry. It's hard to keep all this in my head when I do this voiceover. The top one gets completely glued on because it's covering up Sunday through Saturday. And we aren't using that as a pocket. So we're going to just glue that on. Okay. And remember, you can rewind this and watch how I do this over and over. So if you decide, when you decide to make one of these, you can watch it again. Now the second and all the way down are only glued on the ends. Why? Because there are going to be pockets if we glue the whole thing down. then we wouldn't be able to use it for pockets. So just on the ends. Because originally I was going to use this with make this, I should say, with the squares completely sewn around the edges. Remember? So here, I'm just going to speed this up so you don't have to sit here for 3 hours and watch me glue. Once that part is all done, you will see that there's the papers across each one, the purple and yellow, are only glued on the edges, so they're like right now they're like belly bands. You could just slide things under them, but we don't want to be able to do that. Now I'm gluing this down, and this is the place where I wish, and I'm going to tell you to do it this way. Before I glued that down, I would slice each space through the calendar, which is what I did on the first one I made. Slice it through. I'll show you what I mean in a minute. Now here's that dark thread that I chose, dark blue. I sewed it already, and I'm trimming it, all the threads off. And there's the sewing. But what I was planning on doing was kind of making it like a tic-tac-toe sew job. Whatever. And I decided, no, I didn't want those dark lines up and down too. I just thought it'd be too gaudy. So what happens here is now, those pockets across are one big pocket all the way across. And if I put little tags in there, they're going to all slide all over the place. So I needed to make those pockets separate. So here I'm just gluing that last one that I forgot. And then here's where the little pockets go. If you look closely, you can see that each pocket was, you might want to rewind it to see this, but I had sliced through the calendar so that when it was layered together, the little tags went behind the calendar into the pockets. There was a slit, and it went in behind the calendar. So there was no way they could get bumped into another space. They were just in a little slot that went through the calendar. Now I'm realizing I should have done that because I didn't though, because I was going to sew it. So here I'm trying to use a ruler and a straight edge, and it was not easy to make those slits. So it was really, really hard. I couldn't see what I was doing. I was trying to measure them. They were all different. Some weren't going through. So I said, well, maybe a little dot of glue on each side of the pocket. I'm telling you all this so that you don't make the same mistakes. I'm making them for you, okay? So I took the glue and I put little dots on the sides of every little place where there was going to be a pocket. And boy, I'll tell you what. It didn't work. I tried. We'll finish that later. Right now, I'm making the little tiny tabs for my little tiny tags. And I'm using another paper that goes with this set. I just wanted them to be darker, just be different from the tags. And now I'm realizing, okay, maybe if I just go in with my straight edge and just eyeball it, then the pockets will work. And sure enough, they did. It was so much easier without using a ruler. The ruler, I even chiseled a little bit off that ruler, and it was just hard. This was so much easier. If you can just follow along the line or do it first. And because I didn't do it first, now I have to back this with something so that the tags don't disappear when you put them in the pocket. So I had this scrap piece of cardstock from my computer, and my printer. And so I used it to cover the back, and now the tags will not fall through the back. Oh my gosh, what a big mistake. But if you slice that first and then add it, you won't have to do that. Because what happened was if I sliced them first and then I attached it to that back piece, that big back piece with the sidebar, and I didn't have to close the back up because that was the back. If you have any questions, and it doesn't make sense to you, just leave me a comment and I'll make another video explaining what I mean. Just a short one. Now, I'm making the little tiny tags. My tags were so tiny. They were just like 3/4 of an inch by an inch, all the little tags. And then I had to fold them in half. And I decided, to put the yellow ones in the purple and the purple ones in the yellow. So now we have these little tiny tags, right? And we're going to add tabs to the top of them. So those are little circles that I punched. And I just put glue on the bottom half of the front of the little circle. And I attach it to the fold of the tag. And because the glue takes a few seconds to dry, I did one row at a time. And then as one row dried, I'd add them to the chart or the calendar page or whatever you want to call it. So see how the glue goes on the front of the little tab and gets glued to the back of the folded tag. So this kind of thing, I mean, I have, I put on an old TV show that I love or an old movie that I've seen and I know by heart, and work at my little fold-up counter. I'll have to show you guys how that is, how that works. Let me make a short of my video of my RV. Or maybe I'll add it to the end of this. So here we are with all the tags in place, and I punched out a few images from the paper that I have with the different butterflies and asters, and just used them as little decorations. Now, here is another way to use the little calendars that they put on the side of the big calendar. You know, they have the month before and the month after. So I used those, and I'm making a paper clip.